Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Metal Roots. Tonight, I am joined by Mr. Paul Carson from the band Paralandra, and we're just going to have a nice discussion about music in general and how he got into it and what makes him tick. So, really looking forward to this, Paul. So, thanks for joining me.
All right, thanks for having me. Yeah.
I think the first question I have for everybody that I talk to is just, did you grow up in a musical household? Did you have anybody in your family play music? Did you take lessons as a little kid?
I did not. I was surrounded by music, but only because of me spinning albums and tapes and whatnot.
Yeah.
But nobody played music, no.
Okay. So, what was it that drew you to guitar, and at what age did you start playing?
Well, honestly, I wanted to be a bass player, I thought, because the songs that I was listening to, the parts that were my favorite were the bass parts. I just thought that was the coolest. But I started out singing with some friends of mine in our youth group in church, and I couldn't play anything, even though I would tinker on stuff. But it wasn't until the guitar player, his name was John Scott, and he sadly just passed away recently, but he literally kept trying to get me to learn guitar, and I would just be like, dude, no, I'm not coordinated like you. You know, I'm just happy to help you guys in any other way that I can, but please don't try to get me to play guitar. And he brought a guitar to my house one day. He just showed up at my doorstep with an acoustic guitar and a Mel Bay book. He's like, dude, you're going to at least try. It's like, oh, okay. All right, I'll try. Just show me like what, where I'm supposed to be doing stuff. And so he showed me, and then it was a little easier than I thought it was. And then playing some songs, he showed me a couple of easy riffs from current songs like Daniel Band and Petra, and I was like, oh, I can kind of do this. Wow, this is fun. This is super fun. And that's pretty much where it took off. And after a while, it was just like, feeding a starving man. I couldn't get enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So do you remember exactly, like, I guess, when there was maybe the first band you got into, even if you were like a 5 or 6 year old kid or whatever? Was there something that was like your first sort of love musically, like, oh, this band is pretty cool?
It was probably with them. We called ourselves Carrier.
Okay.
Because of all the viruses that we had at the time. But I'm not sure why we picked that name. But yeah, I was playing guitar, and John, my friend, was playing guitar, and his brother on drums. Anyway, so it was just kind of like some of us friends from church, and we mostly just, we just played cover songs.
Yeah.
We would either play at the youth group or at somebody's house or whatever. And it was super fun. It was super fun. I loved it.
Now, did you have an early band that you just adopted, like, oh, this is my band? For me, it was, early on, it was Kiss. But then when Striper came out, it was Striper. I was a Striper nut from like day one in like 1984, So what about you? Was there something that early on you gravitated to?
Absolutely. It was, believe it or not, it was Petra.
Okay.
And there's a funny story behind that too. This is legit. So I was 14 years old and pretty new. I was brand new to this church and my youth group, and my youth group leader was like, hey, there's this band that's coming through. You guys need to see them. They're amazing. And I saw the tour poster and I was scared to death. And I was not used to that kind of music. It was mostly like, gospel quartets, just growing up in church. And I begged my mom, this is no lie, begged my mom to make an excuse for me. Just make up something, anything, like we've got to go somewhere or whatever. My mom was like, no, I think you should do this. And so I went with them, and I was just dreading it the whole time. And I was like, can we sit kind of towards the back? Because I really don't like real loud stuff. I was just being the biggest weenie. And then we got there. So, they acquiesced. We kind of sat towards the back, and Petra started playing. And it did not take any time at all to where it was like, if you see those cartoons where the wolf smells the pie cooking on the windowsill, and all of a sudden you start levitating off the ground, that was me. I ended up at the very front, and that was the night when the light switch flipped in my life, and I literally couldn't go to sleep that night. I still remember pacing the hallways back and forth. I wanted to wake my parents up and just tell them everything that was going on.
Yeah.
But I didn't. But literally, dude, it was the pivotal moment where everything changed for me. And I was like, that's what I want to do. It's like these guys they're Christians, they're serving God. They're like exciting. The music is the best freaking music I've ever heard in my life. They're so cool. They're having so much fun. I'm like, oh, and I was just praying, God, I just want to do that for my life. Please make some way where I can do that. That's my calling. And so anyway.
That's awesome.
Bizarre.
How old were you at that point?
I was 14.
Okay. First time I saw Petra, I think I was about the same age. I might have been my junior year of high school. And my buddy talked me into going to see him, and I didn't know much about him. I just heard the name and things. And so we went to see him. It might have been, I don't remember the tour, whatever album was before Beat the System. Was that Not of This World?
Not of This World, yeah.
Okay, so that's the first tour I saw. And then we went the next year for Beat the System. But yeah, that was my first time going to an arena show of like a Christian rock band.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Pretty unheard of at the time,
Yeah.
A Christian arena rock show.
Yeah, exactly.
It was kind of crazy. But
well, that's really cool. So that got the bug going. So then did you start taking like guitar lessons at that point and really diving into it full bore? And
no, I never. I mean, that was still going to be. It was going to be another 3 years before I'd pick up a guitar. I was just hardcore into it.
Okay.
And then, like in high school, a guy introduced me to Van Halen, and of course, I hear Eruption, and it's just game over as far as like, I've got to do this. I've got to figure out how to do this. This is so cool. And, like you said, Stryper, there was a lot of great bands back then that were just popping up everywhere. Yeah. And, but I would say Petra, Van Halen might be a little diametrically opposed, but those are my big influences.
Oh, that's cool.
And props to Stryper for Michael Sweet for keeping that thing rolling and still cutting edge. I remember a friend back in the day when Stryper came out, we used to argue about Stryper versus U2.
Okay.
Because U2 had just kind of come on the scene too. And he was like, dude, nobody is going to even know the name of Stryper 5 years from now. But U2, I'm telling you, this band is going to be around forever. So it's interesting that Stryper has pretty much outlasted U2, I would say, as far as being in the public eye and being active musically,
Oh yeah. I mean, they put out a lot of music in the last 10, 15 years, new music. Yeah. So do you remember what's the first album you're like, okay, I'm going to go buy this album with my money that I earned from my, paper route or whatever it was? You remember the first thing you bought?
Not of This World.
Okay.
Not of This World. And it's funny you mentioned that was I remember that concert because that's when they came out with the lit up Petra on their shirts. They were like, had little lights on them, but yeah, what's funny too, another story about that. I went to the store to buy Not of This World, and Greg Voles' wife was in the store at the time.
Oh, wow.
And the lady checking me out, she's like, well, you might want to meet this lady. This is Becky Voles. And, you tell a young kid like that, after they picked me up and fanned me off and everything.
Right, yeah.
He was like showing me family pictures, and it was literally like,
oh, wow, that's cool.
My moment with greatness or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was pretty neat.
That's awesome. So in terms of, Petra, Van Halen, so do you remember like maybe besides Petra, remember some of the other early concerts you went to,
Yeah. I definitely remember going to, I hit all the big ones that I could. I didn't go to a ton of concerts, but I just didn't have the money. I was we were not rich. I'll just put it that way. But I remember seeing and loving Night Ranger.
Oh yeah.
They came with, I can't remember who they came with, but blew me away. Bon Jovi, the White Lion Stryper concert was another one of my favorites. So loud, but it was really good. But I caught Petra every time they came through. Every time, right? From that very first concert. So I always caught them. I went to a Kiss concert in 90, I guess. And that was probably the loudest concert I've ever been to in my life. That was insane.
Yeah.
No offense. We left early. Me and my best friend left early because we were just like, holy crap. Like, I'm going to have permanent hearing damage from this. Yeah. Whenever we toured with Yngwie Malmsteen, they have like earplugs at the atrium that they hand out.
Yeah.
Yngwie is probably even louder, but I always had earplugs in for those tours.
I know you play guitar, but do you sing as well?
Yeah, I do. I
Okay.
don't like to because I just enjoy playing guitar a lot more. But yeah, like in bands in the past that I've been in, I was in a cover band for a while because helped pay a lot of bills. But yeah, I did my share of singing. I sang one song on Street Magic, not a recent album, but the one before that. I sang on that song. But yeah, I don't consider myself a lead singer. I do it out of necessity.
Yeah. Obviously, we'll talk about Paralandra in a bit, but prior to that, were there any other bands you had some success with as well?
Kind of. There was a band that I got in with some guys, and it was all original music. We'd play a couple covers, but the main songwriter, guy named Mike Schmitz, was in this band, and he's also the guy that wrote like 90% of Greg Volz's solo material.
Okay.
And he's a guitar player, songwriter, and I just found out that he lived in the same town as me. And anyway, we hooked up and got in a band, and everything was great. We had an EP that was produced by Jonathan David Brown. It sounded really good. And then it kind of got real. And we had a guy that was wanting to manage us and wanting to relocate us to Austin. And so my kids were very young at the time, little bitty kids. And so I kind of had that moment of a big decision, and I just decided, man, I don't think I can be a good dad and put all my energy in this band at the same time. And so I literally just I just quit. Like, yeah, I felt terrible, but the music was absolutely great. Had a great singer, but I just couldn't, I couldn't do that to my kids. So
no, well, I totally respect that decision. That's like the most important decision, So.
Yeah, it just got too real. It's like, this is what I've been shooting for my whole life. And then when it happens, I was like, oh.
Right. Why couldn't this happen when I was 18? Right. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So have you done any other recordings besides Paralandra, or anything that you've played on that's out there, or other recordings?
Nothing worth listening to. Yeah, a few things here and there. I've been hired out as just a guitar player on some projects. You lay down guitar tracks and whatnot. But yeah, nothing noteworthy.
Okay. So who are some of your influences as a guitar player? Besides, we talked about Eddie, but
definitely Eddie. Bob Hartman early on, obviously. I liked how clean he played. Like, a lot of people don't realize what a clean rhythm player he is. That guy is very, I don't know, he's just very organized. I don't know how else to say it. But also guitar players, once I heard like George Lynch, that he was a huge influence on me. And a lot of people will tell me when they hear me live that, I might remind them of Lynch a little bit, which it's not intentional. It probably just kind of, and then obviously Yngwie, Eric Johnson, Vi and Satch and all those guys. And then later on, Andy Timmons was a pretty big influence. And just mostly his tone is like, I think the ultimate tone of the gods, I think Andy Timmons got it nailed.
Yeah. I would say for me, one of those players too, I think the guy who just oozes like, feeling out of his guitar solos and always had a great tone was Tony Palacios from Guardian.
Oh, yeah.
Saw them live a bunch back in the day, when the late 80s, early 90s, all that. But man, every time I saw Guardian, I was just always like mesmerized by Tony's playing and his, just the feel of his solos. It's not overplaying, it's just playing what needs to be there. And
with a little extra sauce here and there.
Exactly. And he always had such a great tone, I always tell people, if you listen to the album what was it, Fire and Love, Forever and a Day. I love the guitar solo on that song, you know.
Dude, I'm glad you said that. I need to revisit that. I haven't listened to them in a long time, but I used to just love it, wear it out.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I go for anymore, is just I got, like, when I first heard, you know, Yngwie and these guys, these shredders, Tony McAlpine and whoever, I was like, oh man, I got to really step up my game. And I really worked hard on playing really fast and all your arpeggios and all that stuff. And then later on, I just kind of was like, I'm not really into this as much, even though I learned how to do it. But I kind of like more melodic, beautiful playing that every once in a while might throw you a little something just to make it exciting. But
yeah, exactly.
Kind of more into melodic stuff now.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of the same because, you know, nowadays there's so many of these crazy extreme drummers out who blow my mind with what they can do. And, you know, they're playing 290 beats per minute or something crazy. But then when you can see some guy who's just totally in the pocket and throws in just these cool little licks and stuff, you're like, wow.
It rules. It rules all of it. Yeah. A guy, somebody that can make you feel something, you know, I don't care how fast or slow you play, but there are those guys that just, and like Andy Timmons is one of those. Not Jordan. What's his name? Nick Johnston.
Okay.
He's a kind of a newer player, but I mean, they make you feel something, and you're just like, and there's some drummers like you mentioned, you know, Picaro, obviously, but that's what I gravitate towards, just guys that are playing music that make you feel something.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it moves you. You can feel it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward a little bit now to Paralandra. So I did a little homework before I called you here, but you guys formed sort of unofficially in 2013, and I said you guys got together for just a one-time event to play a 4th of July thing for like your county fair or something.
Yeah,
correct? And it was just you and your daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was the guy for the previous few years would organize the talent for that event.
Okay.
And then once Cassandra started really wanting to learn how to write songs and, you know, this whole thing, and I was like, yeah, I'll help you. And we ended up getting a band together because, you know, I thought we were writing some pretty decent stuff. And then that year I was like, why don't we just play it and just see how people react? I don't know. This might suck. It might be good. I don't know. How do you know? But we had a great response, and it's like, that was fun and people seem to love it. So let's lean into it. You know?
Yeah. How old was she at that point?
That's a great question. I think she was like 19, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. Well, that's one thing I think is great about Paralandra is the father-daughter duo, you know, and you guys are both great guitar players. I mean, I've watched some of those things where you guys have done like the little studio playthroughs of your songs, and you guys do some Yngwie stuff live where you're doing the dueling guitar stuff, and you know.
Love it.
I just think it's so cool because that's not really a combo I've ever seen before, is a combo like you and your daughter out there. So.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we love it. I mean, we would put a dual guitar solo in every song if you know, if we didn't care about the song.
Yeah.
But yeah, we truly enjoy that.
Well, and she's got some killer pipes too. You know.
Oh, man. Yeah, she carries us. I'll say that. Guitar players, dime a dozen, but yeah.
Well, one thing I got to give you guys kudos for as well is like social media. You guys have an awesome social media presence. You guys do so much on there. You're always doing something kind of fun, you know, or comical, you know. You guys have a good time. You can just see it when you look at your videos, you know, when you watch the things you post on social media, you know, and it seems like you guys are very tight-knit, like obviously family. Two of you are family, but it seems like you guys are really have that family thing going on.
Dude, super blessed. I know it's not real common, but I literally, like, tomorrow night we're getting ready again. We've got or getting together for rehearsals and stuff. And I look forward to seeing those guys again. I mean,
Yeah.
we rehearse at least twice a week, and we're playing constantly. And I still love getting together, and we're just really good friends. Everybody's got a real good sense of humor. Nobody takes themselves too serious. And even if we were not in a band, we would be hanging out.
Yeah.
So I feel super blessed for that. Sometimes we'll get together and we never rehearse. We'll be out playing horseshoes or doing whatever, and we forget to pick up an instrument.
Well, I think that's awesome because you see so many bands who it's like they tolerate each other for the sake of the band or whatever, right? But no, to see people that actually genuinely love and care for each other and get along, that's really cool. You know?
Yeah, it's fun. I
think that comes across. That's what I say. I think you can feel that in your music. You can kind of sense that spirit,
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. That's good to hear.
Yeah. So in terms of like music, what has it meant to you throughout your life?
Wow, that's a broad question. It's honestly been extremely important. Even before I ever thought I would play anything or create music, that was my hideaway. I mean, I remember just growing up, I would have albums on my stereo or tapes or whatever, and a speaker just right at my ear. And just that was my favorite place to be. And I would pretend like I was a DJ. I thought maybe I could be a DJ when I grew up because, I could be around music all the time. But there's something about music that really, and I know this is not unique to me, but speaks to the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And there are certain times that you're going through in life. And if you put on the right song with the right message and everything, it just carries you through it. It's really bizarre. I know there have been a lot of talks about, God created the universe by literally singing over it, or just the vibrations, I've heard these studies that basically that's what the universe is. It's built up of waves, of vibrations, every bit of matter and everything. And that when God spoke things into existence, more or less, it was probably not words. It was probably some sort of musical melodic vibrations that, I don't know, but yeah, I feel like that's why it permeates everything and gets into our soul. And it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a human being, it'll affect you.
Exactly. I think that's why I love doing these, because that's how I feel about music. I think that's how my friends, when we started doing this, that's how we all feel. So we're like, well, let's get other people's stories, because I think everybody likes music, right? Everybody likes to listen to radio or whatever, but I think there's people that love music, that it's like in your soul. And that's why I like interviewing guys like yourselves and people, because I want to see what makes you tick. And, for me, I you can't explain it, right? You get it or you don't get it. If music moves you to that level, it does,
Yeah. It's almost like it's just tantamount to food in your life.
Right. Exactly.
There's just something so special. I don't understand why the rest of my brothers and sisters are not musicians, because it's like, how could you not want to just be surrounded by this and do this for your life? So I think there's just a few of us that's the way we're made. We're supposed to be musicians.
Yeah.
So, high five.
Yeah, exactly. So to pick back up a little bit on Paralandra now. So 2013, you guys do the thing with Cassandra, goes over pretty well. And then I saw that you guys did like a kind of a homemade CD called Rise Up, and you sold like several copies of that, and that went over really well.
Yeah. I think we ran through about 600 of those, and then decided it was kind of a homemade thing, but because it was successful, we wanted to cut something that was professionally produced after that. Mm-hmm. So we did not make any more copies. We get people asking us for, if they can get a copy, and I'm like, I don't know, see if anybody's got one online.
Yeah.
But we don't have any. I think I kept one for myself, and that was it.
Sure.
But yeah, that one was, I think, 12, 13 songs on that. And some of the songs on Rise Up have been redone on subsequent albums.
Okay.
Yeah, I still think it's a great CD. It's just not, professionally used and mixed and everything.
So at what point did you guys decide, well, okay, this is going pretty good, maybe we should form an actual band and do this?
Yeah, I think it was after the success of Rise Up, and we started kind of building a little bit of a following here locally. And then we went up to this thing in Pennsylvania called the Millennium Music Conference. Yeah. And impressed some people there apparently. And that's where we got connected with Chris Bianchi, who managed us for a while. And he started Legend Recordings, and all of our albums have come out through his Legend Recordings. But that's when it kind of clicked, was at the Millennium Music Conference. And David Ivory, a producer, was there, and he's produced like The Roots and Hellstorm and, some really good acts. And he invited us out to his home studio, and we're like, sure. And he took us out there, recorded a song, produced a song for us for free. Just like, I would love to produce an album for you guys. And so that's kind of when it got real. And we were like, okay, well, maybe this is something worth, really just digging into. We couldn't afford David Ivory to produce the songs we were working on. He was just too expensive. Worth it, but yeah, so we just did a 5-song EP with this other producer in Cleveland. But that's kind of when we were like, okay, let's just see how far we can take this.
Yeah. I saw so you guys had Sawyer joined you in 2015.
Yep.
Okay. Now I saw a couple of videos online where your son had drummed with you. Was he ever officially the drummer? He just kind of filled in, or was he your earliest drummer?
Yeah, he was the drummer at the beginning.
Okay.
But he also had a band with his own friends. And so when me and Cassandra were like, we just need to form this band, I asked him, I still remember I was standing 15 feet that direction. And he was just like, yeah, no offense or anything, but I just kind of want to do, the thing with my friends. And it's like, I get it. No big deal.
Yeah.
But he is a phenomenal drummer. And he's when Dakota, our drummer now, when he got shot, Gabe filled in for us for a year. He was going out on the road with us and everything. Okay. So yeah, he's great.
That's cool. Yeah. So then you guys put out in 2016 the All Fall Down EP.
Yeah, that's the one we recorded in Cleveland with Chris.
Okay, then 2018 Ascension.
Yep.
And that's also when Dakota came in after the release of that.
Yeah, that was the last one that Nick, our old drummer, recorded with us.
Okay.
And Dakota came right after that. So Dakota started January of 2019, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know, with each release, you guys have kind of pushed a little further and gotten a little bit more, production level and this and that. So how is it you guys came to work with Elvis? And how do you pronounce his last name? Is it Basquiat?
Basquiat.
Okay. So how did that come about?
Well, he was on our radar, honestly, even back when we were looking to cut All Fall Down. We were all just saying, okay, the producer is so important to the sound of the band. And Cassandra's favorite band is Alter Bridge. Mm-hmm. And of course I saw that Elvis had produced everything Alter Bridge does, and Tremonti, and just a lot of other bands that were like, yes, that's the sound that we're kind of going for.
Yeah.
And so, he was on our radar, and it wasn't until after we cut Love Will Win. We cut Love Will Win as a single with Jake Jones. And I love the way that came out. But we sent that through Chris Bianchi, our manager, to Elvis, which is like, hey, we would love to do an album with you. And he loved it. And he was like, yeah, I love these guys. He did a little more digging on our music. Yeah. And he was like, absolutely, let's make this happen. So it was like a dream come true, man. It was just, yeah. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And one thing I think is cool about your band too is, it's tough to pigeonhole you and say, well, you're this or you're that. You guys are just a really good rock band, you're a hard rock band, and definitely harder at times, but you also have some ballads. But yeah, I think in this day and age when, heavy metal has gone very extreme in a lot of cases, mm-hmm. and then the rest of the world, there was people saying rock is dead and all this sort of stuff years ago. And there just haven't been a lot of just rock bands coming out besides your Alter Bridge and your Tremontis and people like that. So did you guys, like you said, did you try and go for this style on purpose because that's what you like, that's what you wanted to play?
Not really. It was just kind of, that's naturally like the music that comes out of us when we write. I would say this last album is probably more so the most genuine representation. Yeah. We had songs that we had written back in 2015, and one song, Savannah, like I wrote that about 2 months before we went into the studio. So it was like all these songs, it's almost like a greatest hits.
Yeah.
This last album. And so, yeah, it's just fair. We're not really shooting for, we want to sound like those guys.
Sure.
But I would say the way we were writing the stuff Elvis produced was most emblematic of what we were writing. And so that just made sense, you know?
Well, I think it's cool too, like a band like yourself coming out and sort of just playing kind of what comes out of you. You're not trying to like, well, this is successful now, let's go in this direction. Well, tomorrow, you know, hip hop's going to be popular. We're going to go that way, and then we're going to go death metal on our next album. You know, no, you're playing what you want to play because it's what comes out of you. And I think that's really cool because I think that resonates with people as well than trying to be something you're not, you know, just being genuine to like, this is the music we like. That's what we're going to play, you know?
Yeah. Like this is what popular songs are sounding like right now. I need to write something that sounds like Five Finger Death Punch or whatever. Right. No, we're literally trying to stay away from that as much as possible. And, just write stuff that we'll sometimes just come up with a riff that sounds cool, or I just write something, you know, musically and just throw it together, and however it just comes out, it comes out that way. And it's very, very natural. Yeah. And, you know, we just decided early on, let's let the chips fall where they may. Like if people hate it, they hate it. I mean, there's no money in music anyway. So what if we lose? Yeah. No. So anyway, might as well enjoy what we're doing. And
yeah, exactly. Now, when it comes to songwriting, is it mainly you and Cassandra, or does kind of everybody kind of throw their 2 cents in? Do you come to band practice and just jam on a riff and see where it goes, or is it a little more structured than that? How do you guys go about that?
Yeah, it's kind of all the above, honestly. Like there are some songs that I have completely written just acoustically, and same with Cassandra. Or sometimes she'll bring a chorus and be like, I can't get this chorus out of my head, and then I'll help her flesh it out. Or I'll write a riff or something like that. And then Dakota and Sawyer will help us just kind of put everything together. They are like the ones that can see the forest for the trees, you know? And they're like, yeah, honestly, I think this riff needs to be the intro. Or they'll be like, you should probably cut this part in half. And so they just kind of help us arrange it, and they just make it a lot better than it would be otherwise.
Yeah. Now, I noticed you guys, tour-wise, I was looking at your upcoming tour dates, and I mean, you guys are busy, like you said earlier. I mean, we're talking like from Oregon to the East Coast to Florida to, you guys are everywhere. Yeah. So do you guys do like your own booking, or how do you go about that?
A little bit of both on that. We do a lot of this smaller venues of our own booking because we've been touring pretty consistently since like 2018, just all over the darn country. Mm-hmm. And so, a lot of those we book ourselves, but the bigger things like we're playing Bratfest this Friday, and that was booked by Arm Entertainment that we're connected with.
Okay.
And they'll book the big festivals and the cruises. And like when we did Rock Island in Key West, they were the ones that made that happen. Yeah. So they do the big stuff. And then we kind of connect all the dots ourselves, you know, getting to and from.
Okay. Yeah, because I was looking at that going, man, you guys put in some miles because you guys are going everywhere.
Dude, we do. We put on so many miles. But it's a lot of work too, dude. I mean, it's never easy. We're able to do it and pretty much support ourselves doing it. And that's just kind of the goal for me. It's like, if you can do this, I don't care about being rich, but if you can do this and just put food on the table, you know, thank you, Lord, for that. It's amazing, like how many streams that we've got on a lot of stuff. And when we get our quarterly royalties, it's about enough for one of us to go out to eat. I mean, it's, or maybe take our family out to eat, you know.
Just to get a Domino's, maybe a large pizza, right?
All right, guys, we get extra toppings. Our royalties came in.
Exactly.
kind of sad. I don't know if anything will ever change as far as that goes, but who knows? But it's just good to be able to pay the bills. And that's, like you said, that's why you got to get out on the road and sell T-shirts and CDs. And
So let's talk a little bit now about how this Petra thing came about. So how did that opportunity come your way?
yeah, essentially, Greg X Voles decided to put something together a few years ago. It might have been 2018, 2019, but he just felt called to do that. And so he got together, and of course, Louis Weaver and Greg Bailey, John Lowry were all for it. And he got Kirk Henderson to play guitar. And Kirk is the guy that played on all of Greg's solo albums.
Okay.
But and that worked for a while, but then Kirk is like, he got a degree, and he's was in the middle of writing a book, and he's just got a lot going on in his life. And so he just kind of told him, like, I might need to just be the backup guy, and find a normal regular. And so they were on the hunt, and I had met and got to know Greg's daughters and son, but and they told Greg that he needs to give me a chance or whatever, and told me about it. And they're like, Paul, don't freak out, but Greg would be interested in hearing your stuff. And so I had to send him some demo videos, me just playing stuff.
Sure.
And yeah, I was in a competition with other people, and I figured I had no chance because, like, he pretty much got his pick of so many people. But somehow I ended up getting the gig, and I just about fell over. I literally
that's so cool.
Floor and was like, what is happening? It's mind blowing. And
exactly, because you talk about how much of an influence they were on you. I mean, they were like your band, and now the fact you get to play with them and stand on stage next to them, and
it's crazy. But yeah, he just flew me out for a rehearsal out in Nashville, and so where I could meet the guys and just see how everything worked. And it was great because those guys are the real deal. I mean, they're the sweetest people. I mean, they love God. They're just real, and I loved that. And so it made it easy for me because I'm just a real guy. And but yeah, I love hanging out with them too. They're just great. But it is surreal. I'm not gonna lie. Like when I'm out there on stage, and me and John Lowry are going back and forth trading, dueling guitars and stuff. It's like, Paul, I'm like, okay, so maybe it is a simulation. Maybe this world is a simulation. This just doesn't happen. This is so mind blowing. But yeah, it's incredible, and I don't take it for granted.
So I'll give you a chance now if there's anything you kind of want to plug for the band. I know I wanted to mention that you guys did put out a brand new album April 4th of this year. So just a little over a month ago, you put out The Body Electric. That's your newest record. Mm-hmm. So maybe you want to tell folks where they can pick that up or where they can kind of follow the band.
Sure. Best place to go is ParalandraRocks.com. And that's got all of our tour dates, our merch, bios, just everything is there. And then you can stream our music on Spotify, Amazon, just Pandora, just anywhere you can stream music, you can find us. And as far as tour dates, we are supporting The Body Electric right now, and we are literally going all over the country. We're heading north starting this Thursday, going up to Wisconsin, Bratfest, and we got a few other gigs in Wisconsin. And it's just going to kind of keep going all summer. We'll be literally, like you said, great Northeast to Florida, to the north or the Northwest, and out in Arizona and Utah, and just all over the place. So we would love to see you there.
Exactly. I was going to ask you, so you've played a lot of these gigs on Big Fest. Have you guys done Rocklahoma?
Yep. We've done that, I think, at least 3 times.
Okay. So what's the biggest crowd that you've played to so far?
It's a good question. It could be probably either Rocklahoma. The last time we played there was enormous. It was just a sea of people. Or was it Rockfest or Dirtfest? I think Rockfest up in Cadott, Wisconsin. And we played there, and that was another one where it was just, that crowd was just crazy. They were on fire. That was so fun. And then possibly the biggest one that we've done is we played in Sparks, Nevada, opening up for Warrant.
Okay.
And they had a big thing they call the is it Rib Fest or something to do with ribs. I feel bad that I can't remember. But we did that last year, and that was another one where like it's right by this casino. It's outdoor and this huge, enormous stage, and just a flood of people. And that one was really fun. Those are fun, man. I love seeing a lot of people. Yeah.
So did you ever go to the Cornerstone Festival back in the day?
Man, no.
Okay.
I feel terrible that I never did, because Resurrection Band is up at the top, man. They're like one of my favorite bands ever.
Yeah, we were very lucky because I'm in Illinois, and when Cornerstone first started, it was in a town called Grayslake, which was kind of northern Illinois. I think I went to it 3 or 4 times up there, but then when they moved it to Bushnell, Illinois, that's literally an hour from my door. So we went to Cornerstone every year from like 91 on when it was down here in Bushnell. And I mean, like you say, you saw everybody, all the biggest bands, and it was, 30, 40,000 people there at its peak, and it was a huge fest. But
so many stages, and
yeah.
Oh, I wish I could have gone. I mean, but I was raising a family when Cornerstone was like in its heyday, and that was a time in my life where I just almost never saw any concerts. It was just all dadding.
Well, Paul, this has been a lot of fun, man. I appreciate you talking to me, taking time out of you. I know a very busy schedule.
No, that's fine. It's been great talking to you. Yeah, I appreciate it. And usually Cassandra's the one that gets interviewed, so I don't do a ton of these.
Yeah, well, that's what I thought. Let's talk to the man here. So,
I appreciate it. Yeah, and
I do have two final off-topic questions, a little bit. So, are you a vinyl or a CD or a cassette guy?
I honestly am a CD guy, only because I don't have a good. Otherwise, I'd be a vinyl guy.
Yeah.
And I used to have a good a record player, and it broke, and I need to get another one. But my car I drive literally still has a CD player. So But
I'm a CD guy. Once I made that switch in '86 or whatever year it was, I just never looked back. So
yeah, it's easy, and
yeah. My other question is, any guilty pleasure bands, and it doesn't have to be guilty. If you like them, you like them, but just something people might be like, oh, he listens to Oingo Boingo, or whatever it might be.
Okay, I will say the Imperials. I still love Russ Taff era Imperials. I get some of my favorite music. Also, the Go-Go's. I get crap for that, but I like the Go-Go's. I don't know why, man.
Yeah.
Hey,
that's why I like to ask that question, because I was talking to one of the other gentlemen I interviewed, and he was mentioning someone like one of those K-pop Japanese girl bands or something, So that's something I would have expected from a guy in a metal band. So
right.
But like you wonder like how many bands that are starting out now are going to have a 54-year career just because of the way the music industry is. It's kind of sad, because you think of all those classic rock bands, the Rolling Stones. I mean, these bands that are still going that they're pushing 60 years or whatever. It's just, are we going to be able to have a music industry that can support those bands having that longevity? I hope so. I hope the tide turns back the other way,
You hope so, but like Foo Fighters is another one. I feel like they have the potential of that, but there's not a lot of them,
No. That's like when you see those, what is it, like the tree of all the bands in England, and Deep Purple and Yes and Whitesnake and the Yardbirds and Led Zeppelin and all those connections and all. You think about the size of England is relatively small, and the amount of bands that came out of there that changed the face of rock and roll, that are still going today. It's just kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah. So everybody listening, get out, see those bands while you can.
Support exactly, and see Paralandra. You won't be disappointed.
Right, support us. We need it.
Well, Paul, thank you very much, sir. I really did have a good time chatting with you. And like I say, I'm one of those guys that needs to catch you live, which I promise I will do next time you're in my vicinity.
Well, I hope so. And if you do, say hi. Love to just, see you outside of the show. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you bet. And give the best to the rest of the guys and gal in the band.
Will do. Yeah. Appreciate it,
All right.
Wade. Have a great night, man.
All right. You too. Thank you.
All righty. We'll see you.